Okay, so hopefully I can make this a little bit more understandable for you. So here's the data that we're going to be working with. The reason that it is continuous data is because time is continuous. You don't get to, like, for example, 678 seconds without hitting 676 seconds, 675 seconds, 670 seconds. You have to hit every time in between. That's why this is continuous data and not discrete data. Hopefully that part makes sense to you. Let me know if it doesn't. So we are looking at the at 45 random eruptions of Old Faithful Geyser in Wyoming. This is our raw data. So the raw data, we are going to create a histogram, a frequency and a relative frequency histogram with this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to determine how many classes I need and the width of each class. So my smallest data was 672. I want to get a nice pretty number for the bottom of my my smallest class. So I'm going to make that 670 because that's a nice pretty number right near right below 672. So if my smallest data number was 648, I might start with 645 as my smallest. So you just pick a number that is a nice pretty number that is below the smallest data value. So my smallest data value is 672, so I chose 670 as the lower class limit of my first class. And my largest data value is 738. So I want my class width to be 10. So it's just a number that I chose. I just chose 10 as my class width. There's not any real rhyme or reason to that, except for when I go back and look at my data here, I see that it goes from 672 all the way up to 738. And if I do in increments of 10, I'm probably going to end up with a decent number of classes. So when I organize them with 670 as my smallest, if I go up by 10 here, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 classes. And 7 is a decent number. You want kind of between 5 and 15 is generally a good number of classes. So if I would have ended up with like 40 classes with 10 being my class width, I would have changed my class width to maybe 20. So your class width is just a number that you're choosing that's a kind of a pretty number, and that is going to give you between that 5 and 15 classes. So there's not a hard and fast rule about why you choose the number you choose. It's just a number you choose. So I chose 10, which means that this class right here, my first class, is 670 to 679. Second is 680 to 689. Since my largest data value is 738, my largest class will be 730 to 739, and that's going to fit everything in there. So going back to my data, so now what I need to do is I need to count the number of data points that are going to be in each class. So for example, my first one was 670 to 679. So I can see there's one there. Let me see. 670 to 679. I'm just looking through my data points here. Somewhere in here I have a 672. I can't find it. A 672. So you see I can only find 2 of them. So I'm going to do that with each, and then I create my frequency table here. So in 670 to 679, there were 2 of them. 680 to 689, there were none. 690 to 699, there were 7. All I was doing was counting the number of values that fit in that class width. That's all I did was count how frequently it shows up. So I just counted them. And that's where I got the frequency here. So relative frequency, as we talked about relative frequency before, I know that I had I had 45 eruptions. My data is 45 eruptions. So I take this 2 and I divide it by 45 and I get 0.044. That is the relative frequency. So 0.04, so 4.4% of the time, it was between 670 and 679. I didn't have any here, so 0% of the time, it was between those two values. This was 7 divided by 45, so 15.56% of the time, it was between 690 and 699. And I did that with each of these values. This is 9 divided by 45. This is 9 divided by 45. 11 divided by 45. And this gives me my relative frequency. So that is if I'm making a relative frequency histogram. So I'm going to actually draw this. So I'm hoping that if I draw this, this will help a little bit. So I'm going to go to a black sheet here because it's going to make life a little bit easier. And I'm going to just draw my histogram. So here's my beautiful histogram. And we're going by lower class limits. You see here. So I would do, let me see here. So going by my class limits here, I'm sorry, I'm trying to, so my lowest is 670, my lowest here, 680, 690, 700, 710, 720, 740, 730. That should have been 730. 730, well, we don't have 740, do we? Sorry about that. Get carried away. So then I have my frequency over here, frequency. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to count by twos. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Now all you do from here is you just draw a bar. These are all supposed to be the same width. Let's pretend they are. And so I know between 670 and 679 I had two of the eruptions were between that. 680 to 689, there was nothing. 690 to 699, there were 7. So I will make my histogram go up to here and then color it in. 7 to 710, there were 9. So I'm going to go right here. So my histograms, the bars are touching each other. They're all the same width. So all of my classes are the same width. 710 to 720, there were also 9. 720 to 729, there were 11. So oops, this should, over here should be 12. 12. Okay, so so this is 11, so it's approximately right there. And then 730 to 739, there were 7 of them again. So this would be my frequency histogram because this tells me how frequently they show up. Now, if I'm making a relative frequency histogram, the only difference is I have the relative frequency on this side. So this would be a relative frequency. And then these would be the, your y-axis would be your decimals. So 1 second here, let me change this. So my y-axis over here would be my decimals instead. So then I would have like 0.05, 0.10, 0.11, oops, no, 0.15, 0.2, 0.25, and then let me erase these because it's, whoa, it's, oh, now look what I did. Okay, so I would redraw this. It would be the same down here, be 670, 680, 690, 700, 710, 720, 730. Okay, so the 0.05, 0.10, 0.15, 0.20, 0.25. This would be relative frequency. Then what I would do is, because I'm at 0.044 on this one, we just have to approximate where it is. The second one was 0. The third one was 0.156, so it would be right about there. And you just have to kind of estimate where it lands. 7 to 710 is 0.2. And these should be the same width, but because I'm freehanding it, it ends up not super pretty. 720 to 729 be right up there. And then 7 to 739 is 0.156 again. So then it would look like that. The relative frequency is basically the percent of the time that it is that many seconds between eruptions, but you write it just as a decimal, not as a percent. Hopefully that helped. If you have any more questions, just let me know.